Hey y'all, it's the Southern Woods here, and I'm here to start up another new series. This series is going to be my movie review series. I already review store-bought products like salsa, chips, fast food items, burgers, chicken sandwiches, restaurants, survival products like the machete review, metal detector, backpack. You already know I review so much things. That's like half of what my channel is reviewing. So I said, why not do movie reviews? I like watching movies. I feel like I'm an okay critic, probably not the best, because I tend to like most movies I watch. But I was like, why not? Let's make a movie review series. Every time I watch a new movie, or an old movie, every time I watch a movie, I'll sit down, talk to y'all, short video of what I thought about it. And to start up this series in a extravagant way, I thought, because I've been doing this for several months, just on my own, ranking movies every time I watch them, and I got, about 15 movies I've watched since I started doing that, and they already have their review, their rankings, and I thought, let's not waste any time. Let's just share those too, I'll list all these movies I've watched and I'll give my review on them, and that's what will kick off this series. And after I watch a movie every time, I'll sit down with y'all, review it, and then we got content. Ain't that right? Go Dogs. Half my viewers just laughed. So, anyways, we are going to start this off. Well, I guess I should say how I review movies, how I rank them. So, there are 5 categories in how I determine how good a movie is. Alright? 5 categories. All of them out of 5. So, we got acting / characters. How good the acting is, how much I like the characters. Ranked out of 5. The plot. How good of a plot I think the movie is. Out of 5. The ending of the movie. Endings are huge, big deal. If I watching a movie, it could be a great movie, but if it has a shitty ending, it just ruins it for me. So, ending, out of 5. Atmosphere and visuals, the music, the visuals, how everything looks, special effects, the vibe I'm getting. If it's a horror movie, how scared does it make me feel? How creeped out does it make me feel? If it's an action movie, how pumped do I get? If it's a comedy, how much do I laugh? The atmosphere and visuals. And then, finally, overall enjoyment. How much did I enjoy the movie while I was watching? Did I check my watch a bunch? I don't have a watch but my phone. Was I invested the whole way? Did it make me feel good? And all those categories out of 5, I add them up, multiply them, and that's how I get my out of 100 ranking. So that's just how it goes. And we're just going to start off with a bunch of movies I've watched recently to kick off the movie review series. Starting with the 3 parts, the trilogy that came out this summer on Netflix, Fear Street. Now, this is a good one to start off with because this is the start of October. This is October 1st. Why not start with a horror trilogy? So, Fear Street, it was definitely a good series. The more the movies progress, like 1, 2, 3, I thought the better it got because you start understanding everything more since they all intertwine. But for Fear Street Part 1, 1994, I gave the acting and characters a 4.2 out of 5. I thought the acting was pretty good. Well, the acting actually was what brought it down a little bit, but I liked the characters. I think they were clever, they were fun, easy to like. I gave the plot a 3.7 out of 5, mainly because you don't really know exactly what's going on in the first movie yet. You have an idea, but you're sort of in the dark. I gave the ending a 3 because certain characters that you may like may or may not vanish from existence. And I thought the ending was just but it's the first movie out of 3, so it's not the ending either. So that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5. The atmosphere and visuals I thought were pretty good, 4.3 out of 5. I felt spooked at times. Everything looked nice. The music was great. It was just very good atmosphere and visuals. And my overall enjoyment of the first installment of the trilogy 1994, was a 4.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed that movie. It was fun, creepy, good vibes altogether. So altogether, Fear Street Part 1, 1994, got a 78.8% out of 100. So a high C. It was a decent movie. The things that brought it down, obviously, were the plot and ending, but that's because you're sort of in the dark during the first movie. So moving on to Fear Street Part 2, 1978. Gave the acting and characters a 4 out of 5. Slightly lower than the first installment. I didn't like the characters as much, but it was still solid. Acting was, alright. I gave the plot of that one a 4 as well, because you start figuring out more and more of the plot. It becomes more interesting and also complicated. So, I gave it a little bit better. I gave it a 4 out of 5. The ending, a little bit better, 4 out of 5. Because I like the ending of that one overall a lot better than the first one. And you're starting to get an idea of where the next movie will lead into. And you're more pumped at the end of Part 2 than you are Part 1. And then I give the atmosphere and visuals a 4.2 out of 5. A little bit lower than the first Fear Street. It was still solid altogether. Very nice. And then the overall enjoyment, a little bit lower, 4.2. Only because I liked the bad guys in the first movie better. I like the characters overall better. I like the first one enjoyment-wise a little bit better than Fear Street Part 2. But overall, its final grade was at 81.6% out of 100, so a low B. So almost 4% higher than the first movie. Getting better. Now moving on to Fear Street Part 3, 1666, the final one of this trilogy. I like this one a lot because, it's the actual, everything wraps up. I gave the acting and characters a 4.6 out of 5 because certain characters make more of a return in that movie. It all wraps up a little bit. I thought the acting overall was better. Some good characters. I gave the plot a 4.8 out of 5. I just liked the plot of it. It was somewhat different and it was interesting and it went a whole bunch of different directions, but it all made sense at the end. Really good plot in my opinion. I gave the ending a 4.6 out of 5. I really enjoyed the ending too. I thought it was a good ending. I gave the atmosphere and visuals a 4.8 out of 5. The atmospheres and visuals in that third installment were just really good. Really made you creeped out and on edge. Just good, dark, horror movie vibes. And my overall enjoyment was a 4.7, mainly because you know what's happening now. That one was the best horror-wise. It was just overall really good. That third one really wraps everything up nicely, and I give it a 94% out of 100, a solid A. I think once you get to the third film of that series, it's just really good. A 94%. So those are my first movie reviews of this long series starting video. Next we'll do V for Vendetta, a nice sort of action anarchical movie. Definitely recommend it right off the bat before I even get in. I give the acting and characters a 4.5 out of 5. I thought the acting was pretty good. Most of the characters are either likable or really unlikable. The bad guys you hate and the good guys you really like, which is always good in a movie. I gave the plot a 4.4. I thought it was a not the most original plot, but it was pretty good altogether. I gave the ending a 4.4. I thought it could have been a little bit better, but it was solid. It was a solid ending for sure. I gave the atmosphere and visuals a 3.9. That's where I think this movie was lacking. I don't know. I thought overall just you could have been more immersed, and I don't think I liked the visual style as much most of the movie, like the coloration and whatnot. And I give the overall enjoyment a 4.3 because it was a pretty good movie, but I definitely feel like I could have enjoyed it better the whole time I was watching it. But overall, that gave that V for Vendetta an 86% out of 100. So it's a solid B. One of the movies I definitely recommend this movie. Well, we got a lot of movies, so I'm sort of moving on a little quicker. We got The Woman in the Window. This was sort of a suspense kind of horror thriller movie that came out, a couple years ago maybe. I give the acting and characters in this movie 3.5. To me, this is where the movie was lacking. The acting was really good. I just didn't like the characters. I didn't like who they had as the characters. I didn't see the fit that much. That's where it was lacking for me. I didn't have an appeal to the characters. But the plot was really good, very interesting. It had some twists and turns. I give it a 4.7 out of 5. Really good plot. That's what drives this movie. That's what makes it a good movie. The ending I didn't enjoy that much. I gave it a 3.9. That's the other thing that kind of about the movie. It definitely could have been a more enjoyable ending for me. The atmospheres and visuals of this movie I gave a 4.1 out of 5. Pretty decent. Keeps you on edge most of the movie. Kind of creepy, kind of uncomfortable, which is good. I think that's what they're aiming for. And the overall enjoyment I gave a 4.1. So pretty good. Again, if the ending and characters were better, I think I would have enjoyed this movie a lot more, but not bad. Definitely one that keeps you on your toes and wondering throughout the movie. I gave The Woman in the Window an 81.2% out of 100, so a low B. Definitely decent. Definitely recommend. Go check it out. Moving on to a Western movie. My Name is Nobody with Terence Hill. If y'all know him, kudos to you. He's one of my favorite actors, although he's mainly in Western movies. This is one of my favorite movies all time, so let's get into it. I give the acting and characters a 4.6 out of 5. Really love the characters in that movie. I love them all. The acting itself is what I guess nicks the score a little bit. I think the acting could be a little bit better, but it's a 4.6 out of 5. Great acting and characters all together. Really enjoy it. I like the plot. People may say that the movie's kind of drawn out, takes too long, and the plot maybe is a little bit predictable, but I like it. I like how the plot, progresses as the movie goes on. Even if you can sort of tell how it's going to go. I don't think it's that predictable, but maybe some people do. I think it just goes very well as the story progresses in that movie. I give the ending a 4.8, one of the best endings of a movie in my opinion. I really like it. I like the message it brings at the end of the movie. One of the best endings ever in my opinion. The atmosphere and visuals is an old Western movie, so that's where it kind of lacks, especially if you grew up in this day and age. The visuals probably aren't the best. And just that atmosphere itself, you can find yourself sort of getting bored on the slower scenes. I feel like that's where this movie lacks the most, is just sort of those atmosphere and visuals. But it's sort of a low-budget old Western, so it makes sense. And then my overall enjoyment is 4.7. Again, I love this movie. I don't get too tired or bored with it. I could watch it over and over. One of my favorite movies. So I give My Name is Nobody an 89.6%. Very high B, scraping by to an A, rounds out to an A. Again, I really love this. I'd recommend it to anybody who loves Western movies if you haven't watched this movie before. Again, the only thing that brings this score not to like a solid A is just the atmosphere and visuals kind of lackluster, but it makes sense. I think 4 more movies for this series premiere of my movie review series. Moving on to a movie that came out not too long ago called Crazy Rich Asians. I actually had to watch this movie for school this semester, and I wasn't too excited about it, but it turned out pretty decent. So, acting and characters, I thought the acting was pretty good, and the characters were pretty likable or pretty disdainable, which is a good thing. I thought it was pretty good. It's a pretty much all Asian movie, so I guess it is kind of interesting to see so many Asian actors and actresses in one movie, but I think that's what gives it some spunk, some character. So good on the acting and characters, 4.6 out of 5. I give the plot a 4.4. It's fairly original. The whole movie's pretty original. The ending can be somewhat predictable, but it does throw a couple twists and turns in there. Pretty good plot altogether. The ending was pretty good. I give it a 4.4 out of 5 as well. Not the best ending. Fairly cliche for a rom-com, but I thought it was pretty decent. The atmosphere and visuals, I gave a 4.6 out of 5. There's a lot of wealth in that movie. And there's a lot of extravagant buildings and just scenes of richness. Hence Crazy Rich Asians. And there's good music in it. Very vibrant. It's a very vibrant movie too. So the atmosphere and visuals, and for a rom-com, pretty good. 4.6 out of 5. That's that and the characters are the highlights of this movie. And then the overall enjoyment, 4.4. I thought I definitely laughed at some moments. Almost cried once. So it does its job as a rom-com. I enjoyed it all right. Rom-coms aren't my super big thing, but it was a good, fun movie. And that brings its score to an 89.6%, a high B. And if y'all caught on, that's the same as one of my favorite movies, My Name is Nobody. Now, would I consider this movie one of my favorite movies? No. So it's kind of weird how that works when you actually analyze everything and break it down. One of my favorite movies scores the same as this movie. But they're both really good. They're almost an A. They're on the cusp of an A. Definitely would recommend this movie, especially if you're trying to learn about Asian culture, heritage, or you're just looking for a new rom-com. Moving on, 3 more movies to go for the series premiere. We're moving on to Matilda. This is an older movie from the 80s or 90s. If you're a Danny DeVito fan, stars Danny DeVito. He's not the main character, but he's the father in the film, so it has Danny DeVito. I don't know what, I think it's considered a comedy, so it's a comedy movie. Basically a little girl with some superpowers, and that's as vague as I'm going to get. So the acting characters I thought were pretty good. I think that was the highlight of this film. Give it a 4.5 out of 5. Really like the characters. The acting was pretty decent too, I thought. It was just one of those things that everything lines up well character-wise and acting-wise. The plot is where it lacks. I give it a 4.1 out of 5. It's not that it wasn't original or anything. It just, the plot was kind of shallow. Like there wasn't any, twists and turns. There wasn't any like, oh, I didn't realize this was going to happen, or it wasn't. It was just just your comedy. There wasn't much to it plot wise, is I guess what I have to say. The ending was okay. 4.2 out of 5. A good ending, but nothing too extravagant. I gave the atmospheres and visuals a 4.3. For a comedy, definitely funny visuals, funny camera angles at time, good music. I mean, it is from like 30, 40 years ago, so the only thing that lacked was just like the actual visuals, like how good it looks movie-wise. But other than that, I thought it was pretty good for a comedy. And then my overall enjoyment was 4.3 out of 5. It's a decent, funny, little, cute movie. So, definitely recommend. Its overall score is 85.6%. So a solid mid-range B. Decent movie. Definitely check it out, especially if you just catch it on TV or something. It's worth watching. So moving on to the second to last movie of this series premiere, we are going to be reviewing Don't Breathe 2. Now this is the sequel to the movie Don't Breathe 1. This movie came out this year. I watched it in theaters. First movie I've seen in theaters all year. If you haven't seen Don't Breathe 1, I don't necessarily think you have to watch the first one to watch the second one. It definitely helped, but it's not a movie to where you have to. I watched that movie years ago, so it's not fresh on my memory, so I don't have a review on it, but I definitely recommend it. This movie, these movies are definitely suspense, thriller, action, but there's a lot of dread in these movies too, so keep that in mind. Don't Breathe 2 was, I liked it better. I thought it was a lot more intense, a lot more gory, a lot more dreadful, and I gave the acting and characters 4.6 out of 5. I think it was pretty great acting. The characters were, I feel like you never know who to root for in this movie. All these characters, you can find something definitely like you hate about them. And at the other end, there's a couple characters that you can find some glimmer of hope with. I don't know, it was very good acting and characters. Good score, 4.6. I give the plot a 4.6. I thought it was different. It was different. It was intense. Kept me on the end of the seat. I didn't really know what was going to happen. You kind of predict what may happen at the end. It's kind of predictable, but I like the plot. I like the premise of it. The ending was a 4.6. It was a really good ending. It was one of those that I didn't necessarily like how the ending turned out, but it was such a good ending that it made up for it, sort of thing. I give the atmospheres and visuals a 4.7 out of 5. That is the highlight of this film. Very dark, gloomy, intense, dreadful. Really keeps you just on your toes and kind of like just suspenseful. And that's what this movie does really well. And then my overall enjoyment was really what lacked on this film. I gave it a 4.1 out of 5. It is just so dreadful and so gloomy and so stressful that you have a hard time enjoying it. You can't enjoy it because you just feel so bad almost. So that's what this film lacks, is just the enjoyment factor for me. But it's a great movie, 90.4% out of 100. So a low A. Definitely recommend seeing both of them, especially if you're into sort of that horror, suspense, thriller, action sort of thing, gore. If you're a fan of like Taken, or what's another good example? Like Taken, just like sort of those or like even John Wick. If you're a fan of John Wick or Taken, this may be a movie for you, especially if you're into horror as well. So it's a darker, more dreadful, suspenseful version of those movies almost, in my opinion. So the final movie we're going to be reviewing today for this series premiere of TSW, the Southern Woods Movie Reviews, is The Cable Guy with Jim Carrey. 90s movie, I'm pretty sure it was in the 90s. You know, Jim Carrey, same actor from Ferris Bueller's Day Out. Also has Jack Black in there. So many great actors in that movie, and that's why the acting and characters get a 4.8 out of 5 on this movie. Really awesome characters, really great acting in my opinion. This is supposed to be almost like a comedy, but almost like a suspense comedy almost, because it's borderline horror, honestly. Like, there's no gore or anything like that, but it's kind of creepy. It's like a creepy comedy almost. And I think Jim Carrey plays the Cable Guy awesome. I think it's his best acting performance, because just the level of insanity that you have to just be that character, and the level of skill you have to have, I think is pretty great. Almost like Heath Ledger and the Joker. So great acting and characters. That is definitely the highlight of this movie for me. I give the plot 4.6. I think it's, I don't think there's many movies like it out there. It wasn't too deep in the form of plot. Like, there wasn't a lot of digging up for it. It's not something that catches you off guard the whole time. But I like the plot, 4.6 out of 5. Same with the ending. It's not the best ending ever, but I liked the ending. That's the thing. It's one of those endings I really enjoyed, so I give it a 4.6 out of 5 as well. Atmosphere and visuals is the only thing that's really lacking on this movie, but still a great score of 4.5 out of 5. I thought it had good music, good sound, and pretty decent visuals, but you know, it's an older movie, so that's where it lacks, but still a great score, considering that's an older movie. And then overall enjoyment of 4.6 out of 5. I really enjoyed that movie. It's a fun, almost suspenseful movie that, you know, you're just like, wow, I like that, and I like that. I really enjoyed The Cable Guy, and it gets a 92.4%, so a low A, and the second highest movie I've reviewed, besides Fear Street Part 3. So that's a very solid score. Definitely recommend The Cable Guy. Ended up being one of my, probably top 100 movies for sure. Up there on the favorites. So yeah, that concludes my movies I've reviewed so far. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I'd like to know your opinion on any of these movies. Did I score the first Fear Streets too low and the last one too high? Do you think Vendetta is better? Did you enjoy Lady in the Window a lot better than I gave it? That's one of the lowest reviews I've given it. Am I too nice? Because I feel like that's my problem. I feel like I'm too nice. I can find the good in any movie, since I really enjoy movies, so I feel like I give it a too high of a score. So most movies end up being a B or an A when maybe they should be lower in other people's opinions. But, I think if you love movies, then you know a bad movie when you see one. But at the same time, you can find enjoyment in most movies. So, again, we'll see during these series if I find one that gets over 95%. I haven't met a movie yet that has reached over that mark that I've watched recently. And maybe after I do this for a while down the road, I'll do like my top 50 all-time movies. Because that'd be interesting. Of course, when you're ranking something, you have to do based on what you like rather than the analytics. Because as you know, Crazy Rich Asians, My Name and Nobody had the same score, but I like My Name and Nobody a lot more. That's like top 25 movies for me. Crazy Rich Asians probably isn't top 100. So just because it's a good movie doesn't mean it's a movie I like. Anyways, I know this video's got very long. I hope y'all enjoyed it though. I'm really excited about this. I enjoy movies. It gives me a reason to watch more movies, which I like even more. And it's just more content for the channel. And I know y'all like reviews, so those are my reviews. Let me know, definitely, if you've stuck around this far, if you want me to get more in detail about the movies themselves. I know I've just pretty much said, the title, what kind of movie it is, and just vague details about it. If you want me to get more in-depth about the movies, let me know. If not, I'm probably going to stay pretty vague for y'all's sake, and just whether or not I like it and whether or not I recommend it. Anyways, that concludes the Southern Woods Movies Review series premiere. So thank y'all. The Southern Woods out.